So let's get started because we have some information to share, and I think that we're all going to benefit from this workshop tonight. Welcome everyone to, like I said, our 10th Wootton Parent Power Group of Spring 2021. My name is Rebecca Dabbs, and I am the COVID-19 health educator for the center. As always, if we could take a quick moment, can you please put your name in the chat box along with your zip code for a virtual check-in? And we use this information to kind of log to see participation, who's gaining this information, and ways to do better outreach for the future. Again, for our returning community members and new members, welcome. The Wootton Center is a nonprofit organization founded by Myrtle Rump in 1990 to honor her son who was tragically killed in a drive-by shooting. We provide free after-school and summer programs for students in grades 3 through 12 in the South Los Angeles area, as well as programs such as our Parent Power Group to support their families. The workshops are presented in partnership with the Green Foundation and other donors, which can be found at our website at wootoncenter.com/donors. One moment. Sorry about that, y'all. So, as I said earlier, this is our 10th workshop. The workshops are open to parents, grandparents, guardians, or anyone who is in a supporting role for young children and teens. They're held every Monday evening, 6 to 7, and registration is easy. Just pop on the website. For the entire month of May, we're going to be focused on family wellness. Tonight's workshop is focused on budgeting. Next week, we will be speaking with Mr. Eric Moore of Educate California on helping your child go to college. And we're going to be off on the Monday of Memorial Day, but we'll return Monday, June 7th for another great 4 sessions. Tonight, as I said, budgeting and generating income now. We focus with our wonderful speaker, Miss Tracy Fairbanks, the Community Program Manager for Connecticut Federal Credit Union. She is a financial service, she has been in the financial service industry for over 20 years and is passionate about the community and providing financial tips and tools for others. We really appreciate her taking time this evening to spend with us. Welcome. Joining Miss Tracy Fairbanks is also Miss Latrice McGlothin. She is a returning speaker. She's going to be just listening in, answering, and supporting her colleague as best she can. With more than 25 years in community engagement, Ms. Latrice has partnered with and supported hundreds of organizations throughout Northern and Southern California, including the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, the Al Wootton Jr. Youth Center, Richstone Family Services, Volunteer Center of South Bay, Friendship Foundation, and the Estelle Van Meter Senior Center. From creating educational programs to spearheading numerous fundraisers, she's passionate about empowering youth, serving the aging population, and providing resources to underserved communities. She currently sits on the board of directors for the Torrance Area Chamber of Commerce, Connecticut Community Foundation, and the Manhattan Beach Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to both of you and your colleague, Ezekiel
Yanez. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to you all. I stopped sharing and I'm going to mute myself. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for having us. Hello, everyone.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can you all see the getting started screen? Yes, I get thumbs up. Well, we at Connected, we just want to thank you all once again for, thank you, Easy, for inviting us here to talk to you this evening. We realize that it's been a long day. We want to make sure that we're going to be having fun. We want to be interactive. If you have a question, please feel free to just stop us or ask your question in the chat. and one of our folks will be able to let me know that there's a question, and we will be happy to answer it. So let's go ahead and just get started. In regards to budgeting, budgeting is not meant to confine you. Basically, it's meant to help you take control, financial control of you and your finances in your household. A lot of times money can be, or at least talking about money, sometimes is almost taboo. I feel like that's how it was, at least in my household. So we just want to just pull that away. It's not going to be taboo. It's not a scary subject, but we just want to make sure that we're providing you with the correct tools. So regarding budgeting, just why should I make a family budget? Well, there's a couple of reasons why. One is to make sure that you are not spending wastefully. The other one is we want to be able to provide direction for your future. Budgeting can help you educate your household, and it helps create healthy financial habits. One of the things also in regards to creating a budget, if I can have you raise your hands at least in our chat, how many of you already have a budget that you follow? Just out of curiosity. I see a couple people raising their hands. Well, that's good. All right. Yay, thumbs up. Love that. So what we found is 2 out of 5 households use or already have a budget. But you have to start somewhere. So it's great that we're on here this evening because we are going to be providing you with some types of tools that you can use to help with your budget. In this particular example, it talks about how much does it cost to raise a family? And as we know, living here in LA, it is very expensive, first of all. I do not have children, but I do have a bonus daughter. She is 31 years old and just last week still asked for money. She was talking about she needs a new car. And she will have a new car. I don't know what she's going to get, but I'm sure it will be nice because that is how my bonus daughter rolls. But here is an example in terms of the cost of raising a family. And as we know, food takes up a lot of our income. Food, housing, transportation, and childcare and education. Those are pretty much the bulk of a lot of our spending in regards to our budget. So let's click on over here. So why should I talk to my family about budgeting? Well, we want to start at an early age of teaching the kids, our kids, to have healthy financial habits. The other one is we want to make sure that we are transparent about our household expenses. And then we also want to be able to help our kids plan for their future. I know when I was growing up, I remember I didn't necessarily know how much money my parents made, but I know that they sat down all the time and they did work out a budget. So the question becomes, when is a good time to discuss financial habits? Does anyone want to put that in the chat or maybe unmute themselves? Okay. Well, the best time to discuss finances and budgets are right now. It's never too early to start talking about budgets and finances. Now is always the perfect time. I remember when I got married probably about 16, 17 years ago. When we first got married, it was determined who would actually be writing out the bills. And so that was pretty much my job. So it's always a good time to discuss and know what's going on in terms of your finances, and also who in the household will be paying for them. Because it's not really a two-person job, but it's just great to make sure that your partner and the household, they know what's going on in terms of financial habits. So, yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question about, do you think it would be good to engage the youth? I mean, obviously not the real young kids, but just helping them be part of a conversation in budgeting with the family?
Definitely. I'm going to be talking about an example of what my parents used to do growing up. But yes, you need to get your kids involved at early age. You don't necessarily, like Miss Rebecca was talking about, you don't necessarily need to say, we make this amount of money, but I think it helps to make sure that everyone in the family, they have an idea of what the household budget is. It doesn't have to be a physical dollar amount, but definitely it's important that people know in terms of your kids what that budget is.
I think too, just, everybody's, the way they look at money is different. And especially when you're in a relationship, parenting or marriage or dating, whatever, sharing your bills, if you have two different ways that you think about money, that can cause conflict if you don't just kind of, land on how you'll move forward with it. Or if the kids think that money grows on trees, and then, being able to talk with them about their spending, I think is important.
Definitely. Definitely. So we're going to take a look at some 4 pillars of financial education. And this is going to help in terms of our budgeting. One of the pillars is earning. In order to start with your budget, you need to know what's coming into the household. So that is very, very important. And like Latrice and Rebecca both said, is in terms of getting the kids involved, you don't necessarily, if you don't feel comfortable, need to know or tell them exactly how much you're making, because of course you don't want them, because they're listening to everything we say. We don't want them necessarily telling your neighbors, exactly how much you're making, things like that. But in order for for a budget, you do, at least in the household, need to be aware of how much everyone is earning that's contributing to your household and your budget. The other thing is, in terms of pillar number 2, is you need to know, and everyone needs to be aware of what the debt is. Whether it's credit card debt, school loans, let's say child support or alimony, anything like that, you need to make sure that both of your, the people within the household are aware of what that debt is. The third pillar is spending and saving. So this is also key in terms of your overall financial health. And so letting people know how much they have to save or spend, that also contributes to your budget. I know in our household, my husband and I, we have pretty much our own little buckets, and we have determined based on our household income that $300, whatever you want to spend that $300, you don't need to let the other one know. Except my husband's been very much involved in my Amazon spending habits. I think every time an Amazon delivery comes, he wants to know, what is that? How much is that? And I'm like, hey, it's coming out of my budget. It's my little frivolous spending, so I am good. But, that's something that's coming out of the household, but that's within our little $300 each discretionary fund. The other pillar, the 4th pillar, is financial decision making. So you need to be aware of these. These are like our big decisions, big ticket items that we're talking about. One of my goals in the next couple of years is I want a new car. My car is 15 years old, and I feel that I should get a new one. It has over 130, 140,000 miles. and I just want a new car. So that's going to be a big ticket item that we will both be saving for. That brings us on to our next topic, the importance of saving. So you want to make sure, because saving is very, very important. Even if you don't have, or even if you have debt, it is important to set aside money for your savings. You need to pay yourself first. And let's say you don't have a lot of money to set aside, but do please, please pay yourself first. So other types of savings are short-term goals. I would love to go away on a vacation. We've all been in the house for over a year. So our short-term goal is to have a little getaway. Hopefully we'll be able to go. I'm going to say Cabo so I can put it out into the universe, but hopefully we'll be able to go to Cabo. So that's something that my husband and I will be saving for, which is a short-term savings goal. Also, in terms of your saving is retirement. You know, it's never too early to start thinking and saving for your retirement. You can do that hopefully through your job with a 401k, or I know other places they may not have a 401k, but they have something similar. But definitely be sure to set aside money and pay yourself and pay and start working on your retirement. Another tool in terms of your saving is you want to be able to have a little emergency savings. Last year during the pandemic, our wash machine went out and our refrigerator went out. Not only did it take us a few months to get it because the world was closed, but because we had an emergency savings, we didn't have to go into and use our credit cards. So it's good to have an emergency savings. What they say is you should have at least 3 months worth of expenses if you can. And how do you start that? Because you have to do little bite-sized chunks. You may not be able to set aside the full 3 months of spending, but then make that a short-term goal to set aside emergency expenses and money for emergencies. So if you hear my dog in the background, my little coworker, my apologies, because I can hear him. The other way of saving is, let's say you have a CD and you put money in your CD. That's earning interest. That will also help you save. So creating a budget. Any questions so far?
Ms. Tracy, I have a question, just more of a kind of from what you were just talking about. One thing that comes to mind is like youth who are working. It seems that at least for my family, they cannot keep the money in their hands. It's like poison to them. They want to spend it. They want to get rid of it. They need to go to Starbucks. They need to go to Chick-fil-A. They need to, how, other than like constantly complaining and coming on them, is there a resource that you all like, or approach that you all recommend on how to help them set good habits now, saving habits?
Well, I think for me, setting aside, whether you call it an allowance or like your ability to have a little free money. And it's like a budget within a budget. Let's say you have $100 or $50. You want me to get that? I'm going to admit, Tracy. So let's say that you have $50 that your kids can have as their allowance. They have to then have their own little budget. Like my little cousin, she gets her little allowance from her mom, and she just has to make sure that she stays within budget. Whether it's your budget of your allowance or your larger budgets, you need to always be mindful of how much money you have. And some tools, at least for me, is I like to write things down. I don't know in terms of little kiddos, but I don't want to sit up here and think, like every day I get an alert from my bank of this is how much you have left. I never look at that because I've already deducted my bills out of that. So that's kind of useless to me, but some people operate that way. Latrice, do you have any other?
Yeah, thank you. I know another thing, spend, save, and share is another resource that some families use and find it helpful. So as they have allowance or different things like that, or their kids get money, birthdays, the holidays, whatever that might be coming in, even if they have their own job, the conversations that Tracy talked about a little bit earlier are really crucial for that, to be able to sit down with them and, you kind of make a contract with your young adult to say, this is, as you get money in, 5% you can save, or 10% you can share, or a certain amount. But yeah, spending, savings, and sharing is how they kind of break it down. And so as they make that contract with their student or their child, then there is no argument, when it comes up a little bit later or whatever, because you guys have already made that commitment. And then even I think parents allowing your students to start learning how to budget now, before they go away to school, because this will be a useful tool that really can help them, set them up foundationally for how they look at money, and really kind of save you a headache a little bit later so that they're not always just reaching out to mom and dad for everything, but they've got their own money that they've, saved on the side. I have a niece that is going to Howard University, and she wants to live off campus at an apartment. So her mom is making her save her money to pay half of her rent for her apartment. And so that's something that they were able to commit to together. And so you might just think of maybe start small first, and then keep it moving that way to really help them to become great budgeters as well. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is getting into the meats of it all, creating a family budget. So when you create a family budget, or just a budget in general, we're going to talk about the 50-30-20 rule. So 50% of your income should be on your needs. And then 30% of your income should be the wants. And then 20% should be savings or debts. Now, everybody's needs are different. In terms of me, a need is getting my hair done. I want to make sure I am getting my hair done every 6 weeks. So I'm going to put it in our family budget as a need. Other people's needs might be going to Starbucks twice or 2 to 3 times a week. Then for that household, then that would be their need, or going to Chick-fil-A, or right around the corner. I live in Carson. I think someone had a 90746 area code or zip code, but they just opened up a Cranes. I've never had Cranes, but let's say going to Cranes is someone's need. You need to build that into your budget. And then of course your wants, whether maybe my Amazon spending would be considered a want. All right, so we are going to use this this calculator and kind of estimate what the monthly income. Does anybody want to throw out a number? I'm not saying it's your monthly income, but does anyone want to throw out what a good monthly income should be? And if not, I have one on the ready. Ooh. Let's see, is there something in the chat? Let's see. Yep, good one. Easy. We're going to use the $4,500. So according to the US Census Bureau, so for 2019, the average household income in LA is about $68,000 a year. So we are going to, and that pretty much equates to about $4,500. So let's use 4,500 as easy's example, and let's calculate that, and it'll show you the percentage in terms of the 50, 30, and 20 rule. So by entering in the 4,500, it's saying 50% of your needs, that's going to be about $2,250 a month. And that would be, again, like we talked about, food, housing, transportation, healthcare, clothing, childcare. Clothing for me actually could be a want, but let's say you have a growing son and clothing and he's growing, then yes, clothing is definitely a need, not a want. And then for wants, in this example, we are going to set aside $1,350 a month. And then that could be for, in this example, they also talk about clothing, but a hobby or eating out or maybe a gym membership. Then 20% would be savings or debt, credit cards, things like that. So let's see how tracking our expenses work. All right, so these are just basic tools that you can use to help track your expenses. And I think for me personally, how I track my expenses, they have evolved along the years. So there's not one right way or wrong way. These are just examples and tools to help you track your expenses. So I hope you can see my little example. But growing up, when I was younger and I would watch my mom pay the bill. She got paid on Fridays. So Friday night, she would sit at the table with her little spiral notebook and she would put the months across and then all her bills down. As she paid the bills, she would write them on the column and just check them off. And that's kind of how my mom did her bills. So when I got married, that's how I started. And then I moved on to spreadsheets. That is a little bit more savvier if you're computer savvy. Doing the same thing once again, I'm just putting the months across and then I'm listing all my bills. Pretend this is a spreadsheet, I would list all my bills. I would also list my wants. I would enter in my income and then I would have a balance. So using an Excel spreadsheet, that will help you a little bit better than the notebook and pencil method, but it's whatever works for you. One of the things that we say is every dollar that you have has to have a job. Give it a job, whether it's paying a bill, going to a want, or saving. Every dollar that you bring into your household, make sure you are giving it a job. Or for some of you that may want to use apps on your phone, we're not going to be endorsing any apps, but just do your research in terms of an app that will work for you. There's a lot of free online software or apps out there for doing budgets. Another one, this is my husband's method, is the envelope method. When my husband, he would get paid at the end of the month. So what he would do, he would drive down to his bank and he would get all of his money out that he made. He would then come home and he had envelopes. So he would write or take the money, let's say his water bills, his electric bill, his Edison bill, the cable bill, all of those. So every envelope denoted a bill. So he would put that money in the envelope. Then he would take it around the corner. There's a little drugstore where you could go pay your bills around here. And he would pay all his bills that way. Anything left over, that was his play money for the rest of the month. And that's how he did it. So that method worked for him. So once again, these are just ideas and tools in terms of what can help you do your budget and track your expenses. Does anybody use any one of these 4 methods? Or do you have another method that you want to share?
My boyfriend, I feel like he's more of a he manages the money well than I do, because I'm such a big spender. But he manages well. He has an account where he puts all his money in there, his savings, and then other accounts. And I guess right now, like you were talking earlier about buying a car, that's the next step for him. Which and if I want to know more about that too, like about the whole buying a new car.
Yeah, well, we could definitely come back and have our consumer lending team talk to you about cars and purchasing cars. But I see in terms of the chat, pad and pencil and spreadsheets. Yep, that's pretty much my go-to. And then for those that may not necessarily be as organized, you could start with the notebook and pencil method. That at least you're aware of what your expenses are. And then that's the big step. You don't know what you don't know. So you need to write down and track your expenses. So then therefore that can help you along the way figure out how to create your budget, because all these things build upon one another. So even if you may not be as organized as someone else, start somewhere. That is the most important thing. Start somewhere.
I know
Go ahead, Miss Latrice.
Yeah, when we first got married, and we got married almost 18 years ago, we used the envelope method because we did not have good budgeting habits yet. But we literally would write mortgage, lunch, Latrice, Larry on the envelope and put the money in the envelope, and then literally pass out the envelopes. Or if one of them was a bill, we'd put the check amount into the envelope just to really get us into the process of learning how to budget. But the sad part is when my Latrice envelope was empty, then that just meant I didn't have any more money.
Or you go to the Larry envelope.
Yes, then we go to the Larry envelope. But just as Tracy said, anything that you got to take baby steps and be okay with it. But that if cash works better for you, try that. Checking it if you have a checkbook. My mom used to have envelopes written out to all of the places she was writing her checks to, and she would put the amount inside the lip of the envelope and address it. And so on the day she got paid, she did the same thing as sounds like Tracy's mom did. She would sit down, write out all of her checks, put it in the envelope, and the next day when she went to work, dropped them all in the mail. So everybody has a little bit different way to work with their monies.
Yeah.
I appreciate all of those suggestions, and I think that I've used all of them at one time. Like mine kind of goes back and forth, and I think that I'm so organized, and then I forget to add stuff. So one thing that comes to mind is Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. I think, oh, it's only $10, it's only $15. But then as I'm going, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought I had more money. Oh, shoot, I never put that on my budget. Those little things add up.
I totally agree with you. That's why I like using the spreadsheet as well. I'm not so keen about apps, at least for me. I do have something called a bill paying app, but it doesn't track the budgeting. So I'll look at that in terms of when my bills are due, but I like the spreadsheet because then you can do scenarios in terms of, let's say I have we'll have to talk, actually somebody will talk about this at another time, but in terms of your credit cards, you could use a spreadsheet to say, well, if I pay this one off, or I pay the minimum, how much is going to be left? So I like spreadsheets.
The other thing to think about are occasional expenses that don't always come up. So like your car registration, or if you pay your car insurance once every 6 months, you still want to put that in your budget. And what I do is divide it by 6. So then I know, even though I'm not paying it, I have the, however much coming out of and just sitting in my account ready to go. So when it comes up, it's not a surprise. It's not a oops, I didn't forget it. Also, any other things that your family might participate in. If you have, holidays, and you, like for our family, we have a fairly large family and we buy presents for everyone. You want to think about the holidays ahead of time. Don't let it sneak up on you. And so we literally have a line item for holidays in our budget. And so we have a separate account that we just kind of push money aside little by little. And we set an amount that we're going to spend for the holidays, and that's it. Every person gets, 25 bucks besides the person. We usually pull names. That person may get 50, but everyone else, 25 bucks, set it aside throughout the year.
Yeah. And someone says they have a piggy bank. That's cool. And
That's
put
great.
all my working tips there and try not to make a habit to touch it. Yep. I do something. I don't have a piggy bank, but I do have an account where I set a little bit of money. I'll call it my play money in there. I try not to touch it. I do have another account like Latrice is talking about for Christmas, but sometimes I'm a little guilty, I will say, of taking money out of the Christmas account, which I need to be better at not doing that. But again, we're not perfect. We've all had little oopsies or little mistakes, but again, these are just tools. And someone says, yep, it is Amazon's fault. Amazon, I asked Miss Rebecca, it is. I think what I should do as an exercise is put all of my Amazon accounts for a month just in my little Excel spreadsheet, but I really probably don't want to see how much that is, but just to see how much I'm spending on Amazon. That is such a big expense monthly for me. But yeah, definitely good thing.
Something people might want to think about too is if you're trying to put money aside for savings, put it in a savings account and don't give yourself a debit card or any way to get to it.
Yep.
Then you have to literally go to your credit union to get it. And so, like for me, I don't like going into the branch. So even though I work right on top of the branch when we're not safer at home, but literally my husband will say, hey, bring some money home. And I'm like, can you get it while you're out? I don't want to go to the branch. And so that's one of my savings habits is just put it into an account that I can't get to very easily. And then the savings just stacks up because I don't want to go get it.
Yeah, that's a good one too. All right, so let's go on to the next one. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but saving for college. My question for the group is, when should you save for college? If you have little kiddos right now, when should you start saving for college? Now. It is never, ever a bad time to start saving for college. I know when my cousin, who's like my sister, when she had her first child, that is when she immediately opened up a savings account for, her name is Nija. And then when she had her second daughter, she did another account for her second daughter. But yes, definitely, now is a good time to save for college. I think in your next meeting, I think Miss Rebecca talked about, they'll be talking about paying for college, but there's plans that they'll probably, yep, when they are born. That is so true, Tracy. Love your name. I'm sure the next presenter will talk about 529 plans in terms of using that to help pay for college expenses. The other thing is just start saving for college. Again, it's never too early to start saving. So always have a plan. That is the most important thing. It's saying my internet is unstable. Hopefully it'll be okay. So just how much should we save for college? So here is a college savings calculator. And we're going to go ahead and just kind of get an idea of how much you should save for college. Now, again, this is just an educational tool. We want you to be sure that you are researching what schools that your children want to go to, so you can have a better idea as to how much you need to save. But this is just a college saving tool. So let's say we have our daughter and she is in the 6th grade. So that means it's going to be approximately 7 years before she's going to college. And let's say I have already saved $1,200. So with this tool, it's telling me that if my child were to go to a 4-year, I would need to put aside a little bit under $1,900. And then if my child were going to a private university, it would be a little bit over $4,400. Now with this illustration, this is based on an annual cost of $21,950. So again, you just need to kind of do your research of where your kids want to go before you say this. We don't want to say, well, Connecta said I only needed $1,900. You need to make sure that you're doing your homework and seeing how much the college is that your kids want to go to before you start using this. And even in my world, my parents, when I was growing up, they said, go to a junior college. When you go to a junior college, then when you're ready to transfer to the 4-year, we'll help you. Well, when it was time for me to go to a 4-year, then my dad said, well, how are you going to pay for your tuition? And I was like, oh my gosh, Daddy, you said that if I went to a 2-year, you would help me with the 4-year. And that didn't necessarily happen. Uh-oh, I hope I can get back. Good. Phew. I had a little internet scare there, guys. Sorry about that. So let's talk about managing our household debt. So here's a few strategies to use to help you manage your household debt. I've tried a couple out of the 4. One is negotiate with your creditors. You can always call, not saying that they'll do it all the time, but you can always contact your credit card companies and let them know, hey, you know, I've had your credit card for a few years. Is there any way that you can lower my interest? Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but you could start there. The other thing is a lot of credit card companies, you have to do your research, is they will offer 0 interest when you transfer your credit card debt to their credit card. Then you're able to pay off your debt with 0 interest on your credit card. So that's another good strategy. And another thing that I did was consolidate your debt. What I did was I went to my credit union and I got a signature loan. And I transferred at the time all of my credit cards to this signature loan. Now, in my family, what I didn't share yet is my grandfather, I thought having a lot of money and making it was having a lot of credit cards. My grandfather, literally, I don't have one underneath my desk here. He had a business card holder filled with credit cards. And growing up, I would look at my grandfather and be like, wow, he's got money because he had all these credit cards. I had no clue that it wasn't his money, it was credit card debt. And my grandfather would drive new cars all the time, but that's how he lived. But that's what I thought was the right thing to do. So I digress, but that's one of the things in terms of consolidating your debt. So what I ended up doing once I racked up all this credit card debt was I got a credit union loan, and I ended up just paying off my credit card debt that way. Now, one thing you need to be careful if you're going to consolidate your debt is you have shiny credit cards with 0 money, like you don't owe anything. And what I ended up doing once was I had my loan from my credit card that consolidated my debts. And then I had all these credit cards in my wallet. I ended up paying for that new purse that I saw all my friends have. And then the new purse turned into new shoes and new pants and new this, that, and the other. Before you know it, I'd maxed out my credit card. So now not only did I have the consolidated debt, but then I had my credit card debt. So now I was really deeper in the hole. And so it took me some time to get out of that. So don't be like me. It's one of those things, it's a learning curve. And I learned my lesson, but I don't want other people to fall into what happened to me. The other thing is downsizing. You know, they talk about, you know, looking like the Joneses, being like the Joneses. Well, don't be like the Joneses. Sorry if there's any Joneses in the class. But sometimes you can't afford the fancier car or the fancier house. You have to live within your means. And sometimes what that means is downsizing a bit. And then when you are able to get the fancier car or the fancier home, then go ahead and do that. But don't be like the Joneses. Again, sorry if there's any Joneses in the room. But the point is, don't be like everyone else. Be like yourself. You don't have to sit up here and be something that you're not. So that helps people stay within their means by just budgeting and not following everybody. And sometimes that's a hard lesson to learn, because I didn't learn that lesson until after I graduated from college. The other thing to help with budgeting and debt is planning ahead. If you have a little bit of savings in your emergency savings, then you have the necessary money needed to pay for things that you want to get. So those are 4 tips and strategies. So some key points: track your expenses and your earnings, manage your debt, try not to take on more debt than you can handle, like my example of consolidating my debt and then maxing out my credit cards. Don't do that. Talk to your family and your household regularly about the finances. It's not a taboo subject. We want to make sure that we're open and we're transparent, and our kids know exactly how much money is coming in. If the kids want that new Apple 12 purple phone, they may not be able to get the Apple 12 purple phone, or maybe it's a 13 now, you know, but as long as their phone is working, they should be good, you know. So just talk to your kids and let them know. A lot of times kids are very understanding. Oh, good one, Tracy. I heard about that. Put credit cards in the freezer and have them take time to thaw them out. Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know, once you take them out the freezer, do they still work? That part I don't know about. But that's also very good, because you have to let the ice melt. Oh, okay, cool. Yes, they do. The next tip is save for future events and emergencies. Like like I talked about with my wash machine going down and my refrigerator going down. If we didn't have a savings, then we would have had to put that on the credit card. So be sure that you are saving for emergencies. And like they say, it's good to have at least 3 months worth of savings. If you could do 6 months, great, but just save for emergencies. So how do you finish paying for college? Me, I ended up consolidating it with a loan. So credit cards may not be the right thing to do, but I needed to go to school. I was the first one in my family to go to school. So that was my way. I didn't have scholarships. Quite frankly, I was a little too shy, and I just didn't even try for scholarships. Latrice always, we joke about this. I had a B average, so I just didn't think that people would give a scholarship to someone with a B. But I just didn't try, so I put them on my credit cards. But be sure to save for future events and emergencies. Did someone want to say something?
Yeah, if I could share, I would just say that if you guys want to really kind of get the jump on college, savings is to really work together with your students, have them work together actually going online to find scholarships. There are lots of them. I was sharing the other day with another group. I got a scholarship when I was in college. It was listed for the oldest of 5 children growing up in Wisconsin. And I fit the bill. And so I ended up getting a scholarship for $500 from someone in the community that was a philanthropist who happened to be the oldest woman in her family line. And she had 4 siblings, and so did I. And so your students, they really just need to look for them. They are out there. There's so much money that goes unused because it's just not claimed. And it does take some preparation. But I know at the Wooten Center, you guys have great workshops for financial aid and for grant writing. And so really encouraging your students to actually try to make a game out of it. Like for myself, I was like, I don't want to pay. They need to pay me to come to their school, was my attitude. And so I ended up getting a full ride to Howard University. And then when I transferred out here to Cal State Long Beach, full ride. But that was my whole thing, was I don't want to pay for school. I want them to pay for me to go to their school. And so if we can help our students to change their perspective on it and really try at least to get those scholarships, then it definitely could not be so much of a strain on you parents as you're really trying to get your students geared up to get ready to go to school.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't, like I said, I was the first one to go, so I didn't have all these tools and resources. So I just did what, I could do in order to get myself to get that little piece of paper. But definitely nowadays, there's a whole lot of resources, and definitely Al Wooten is definitely a good help and resource for you. So what are your next steps? Well, first of all, set aside some time to create your budget. It's trial and error. So don't beat yourself up if whatever strategy you try doesn't work for you. You have to find what works for you. When you're creating your budget, make sure that you're listing all of your family's expenses, including the Hulus, the Disney Plus, the Netflix, the Apples, all of those streaming services. Make sure that you're listing those as your expenses, whether it's a want or a need. And sometimes you have to have that sit down hard moment of, can I really afford Disney Plus right now? Can I really afford Netflix? Sometimes you may not have to, or you might be unable to have those items. Make sure you're doing the math and make sure every dollar has a job. That is really important, making sure that everything at the end of the day, when you create your budget, has a job and is accounted for. And then regularly track your spending and adjust it as you need to. And be patient with the process. Don't beat yourself up if something didn't go well. Just readjust. It's okay. But in order to be successful, you need to start with a plan. So these here are tools to help you start your plan. That's the end of our presentation. I am going to attempt to, how do I stop sharing the screen? Stop share. Yay. So that is our tips and tricks in regards to budgeting. If anyone has any questions, if you haven't put them in the chat, Latrice, myself, and Ezekiel, we are here for you to answer those questions.
We can also share the link for the module if you guys might like to go back and plug your own numbers in or take a look as well.
I think that would be very helpful. You could share that in the chat. Our audience is a little quiet today.
Yeah.
It just must be not our day, right? And this is tough stuff because we have to really look at what we're doing and kind of reevaluate. It's not easy putting together a budget and looking at what you're spending.
Right. And we're definitely open if we want to take a deeper dive here, Rebecca, or folks might want to learn more. We certainly could come back and really kind of camp out where the parents have some interest. I've seen a couple of messages kind of rolling around in the chat. We do have a module for saving money for college that we could offer as well. And then we do have partnerships, if you guys don't, that we could extend or introduce you to. I saw someone asked about having a scholarship workshop, which I think is a really, really great idea. Something else I would share with the parents, if you've not heard already, is several of the junior colleges, if you'd like your child.
Oh, you just went on mute, Miss Latrice.
There we go. Sorry. Several of the junior colleges do have like a promise. So like the South Bay Promise is for El Camino College. Santa Monica College has a promise. And it is a program in which if your student signs up, they commit to taking at least 12 units for 2 years, and then checking in with a mentor, they could get their college tuition paid for the first 2 years. And so as you guys are saving money or thinking about other things, that is one way that you could go. And then lots of the four-year colleges, of course, have all kinds of scholarships depending on the area of study that your students are going into. They want to get students to their colleges. I'm sure you guys probably have had some speakers coming in from some of the different colleges. And I know we used to take a college tour. I'm not so sure with the pandemic that you've been able to do that, but really reaching out and asking about scholarships. They are out there. We know because we run 3 scholarships. They just ended, unfortunately, before this meeting, but we had less than 200 applicants. Wow. And so you think of, that could have been your student, that one, and I'm not sure how many from Al Wooten actually did submit for this year, but we are just one of many, institutions that actually host scholarships. Black College Expo is full of, college opportunities, but really getting your students to go, maybe taking them and a friend, going with them, making a day of it, making it fun. There's lots of opportunities and lots of help so that you guys really can get your students to school and through school. AVID programs at your school, just lots of different things that they could get involved with that can really help them to find the finances if you don't happen to have them.
That is great resources. Yeah, I think that, maybe we missed it for this application time frame, but we have a lot of youth who are going to be seniors next year. So they need to start getting their applications ready. They need to start thinking about what schools they want to apply to. Or if they just want to try out a junior college because they don't know what their major is going to be. I had a friend whose daughter kept flip-flopping their major, and she said, I'm pulling you out. You're going to figure it out at the junior college, and then you could transfer when you're done.
Yeah,
I think that's a smart way to go, because you can't be spending all that money if you're going to get loans. Right. And if the parent's going to co-sign, I mean, it's they don't make it easy. So any resources would be very, very helpful. I think that will be a conversation we'll have to have soon.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm not sure if Tracy got a chance to share, but we actually have a savings and financial education module challenge going on at Connector right now called the Cameron Challenge. And so if your student doesn't happen to have an account yet, we are encouraging them there are 6 modules that are laid out as a part of the challenge. It's an extension of Financial Education Month. And from now through the 12th of July, they can take those modules. They're short modules. and then open up an account, and we'll put $60 into the account for them if they're one of the first 60 to finish. And so far, we've only got 15 that have that are in and qualified, so they still have a really good chance. But that's a way that you could get them started, you know, thinking about it, saving their money. We are asking them, what are they saving for? And the champion that's working together with us is actually a professional soccer player named Cameron Dunbar. And so that's why we call it the Cameron Challenge. But Ezekiel, that's on the line, is actually managing, just getting those folks set up and getting accounts started and things like that. So lots of ways that we can get students thinking about saving money and getting some education to them so that they are smart savers.
That is wonderful. So I don't know if you all saw, but Miss Tracy put that in the chat. There's a quick link. So I would definitely suggest everybody pop in there and see what needs to. So we have somebody saying that they would like their son to participate. Is there an age group?
It's 13 to 24.
24? Wow, that's wonderful. So the challenge ends June 12th, y'all.
Yep.
So
they got a month. They can do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have any other questions? Any other, I mean, now's an opportunity. You have something that you would like answered. If not, you have those links. We definitely need to revisit the sponsorship information. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for taking time on your Monday evening. This is not this is not ideal in terms of our time frame. We're tired, and we just value all of the information that you're sharing with the community. We value our parents and our guardians and our community members for joining us this evening. You know, you didn't have a question tonight, and that's okay, because you're just absorbing the information. You could revisit it. You could go to our Wilton website to revisit the video. You can go to our YouTube page and see it. And I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. But I gotta throw in just a little, as the COVID-19 health educator, I want to share with you some great resources from the County of Los Angeles Department of Public Health. You all know it hasn't been easy. Virtual learning, working from home, it's been tough, and adjustment has been really difficult. But just as a reminder that COVID-19 testing still is really important in order to keep those rates low so we can finally open up again. Testing is free and confidential and can be found at a variety of sites. Remember to get tested if you experience any of the COVID symptoms, such as fever, cough, headache. If you've been exposed to somebody who's tested positive, you can learn more at www.covid19.lacounty.gov/testing. And also remember to continue to protect yourself and your family from the virus by staying home as much as possible. When you do have to go out, continue to wear your mask and continue to physically distance from others that don't live in your household, and reduce exposure to the virus by not going to places where there's a lot of people, especially if they're not wearing masks, if at all possible. Like sometimes we got to do it, like we got to go stand in line at the DMV, but make sure you're still wearing your mask, you're washing your hands often, and if there's any sign of symptoms, please get tested. Lastly, if you need any COVID-19 related support services, one of our partners, the Green Foundation, is a great resource. Please don't hesitate to contact them at 323-229-3411 or send them an email at info@thegreenfoundation.net. And that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you for sticking to it. Thank you for all of you who got here on time and were so patient as we awaited for our other community members to join us. We hope to see you next week, same time, same place.